Yada. Oh, let's have a beer. Maybe I'll have one of these Mosaic Pale Ales that I just made. Look at that color. This is my Mosaic Pale Ale, and in this video I'm gonna brew this beer, and I mean exactly this beer. Okay, to start the Brewmaster, I have to push brew start, and I have programmed my recipe in this one. And yes, water is filled in, and let's start. And now we can see it ventilates the pumps. The two holes in the middle there are the outlets. And the sparge water. Okay, brew day is finally here. I've filled the Speidel with 50 liters of water, and I filled my sparge water heater with about 30 liters. And now it's time to weigh up the malts. I'm starting with 9.4 kilos of pale malt. And I'm putting a scale underneath my malt bucket to know how much malt I'm putting in. 9.4. And in this drawer I have my specialty malts. This is what we're using today. 830 grams of Red X. And finally it's wheat malt. So that's our malts for today. So now I'm stepping outside to crush the malts. To crush the malts I use this monster mill too. So this is what the malt looks like after it's been crushed. So in with the malt pipe. And these two. Okay, so now it's time to pour in the malts. I don't pour in all the malts at once because we need to stir. Dust, malt dust. The reason for stirring in the malt is to avoid dough balls. If you get dough balls in your malt, the malt won't get wet and you get less efficiency. When the malt pipes gets fuller, it's harder to stir it in. And then there's this fine filter and this disc on top. Okay, there we go. Now we just have to tell the Brewmaster that we have filled in the malt. And now the pumps starts pumping. The Brewmaster pumps the water from below and upwards. So it makes quite a nice fountain. There we are. Now we just have to add our salts. And I keep my salts in this drawer. And now add some water, cold water. I do this in cold water to make sure it dissolves better. Okay. Looks like milk, but it isn't. Now we just have to wait for the mash to finish. And you have to decant your starter. It's a couple of days before brew day, and today I'm going to make my yeast starter. Brewfather.app has told me that I need 344 grams of DME, but I'm making 1 liter more than I have to because I want to reuse my yeast for my next batch again. So I'm making a starter with 467 grams of DME in a 3.8 liter starter. So let's start the starter. When I'm making my yeast starters, I'm using this Erlenmeyer flask to boil the starter, but I also use this pot to mix and also boil my starter. You'll see in a minute what I'm meaning by that. Okay, here's my pot, and I put 1 liter of water in it. I always do that because when I'm weighing in the DME, this makes the DME stay in the pan and not in the air around me. So 467 grams of DME. And now I add another liter of water, and then I start mixing the DME into the water. I do this before applying heat to make sure it doesn't get stuck in the bottom and get burned. And the last 1.8 liters I pour into my flask, so it will be starting to heat up simultaneously as my pot. This is the yeast I'm going to use today. It's on the bottom of my bottle here. This is the yeast. So before this starts to boil, I'm going to add some anti-foam to avoid it from boiling over. And then I'm going to add half a teaspoon of yeast nutrients. One of the reasons that I like to boil both here and there is because here I can really get to mix things out and make sure they are dissolved properly. And I like to boil here because I want the flask to be properly sterilized. And then I just pour everything over here. And then it boils here for 15 minutes before I cool it down in the sink in cold water. So in the cold water it goes to chill down to about 19 degrees. Okay, so now it's been a couple of hours since I started cooling down the wort in the starter, and it's time to pitch the yeast. This is impossible to get out the flask on its own, so I'm going to pour some of our freshly made starter into the flask. And then you have to shake it. So now the magnetic stirrer will stir the starter for maybe 18 hours. It depends on the result. Be careful when you pour your yeast starter to avoid too much of the good yeast cells to come out. Okay, so there we have the yeast. And now I store the starter in a dark cabinet for the rest of the brew day until pitching. Then it's time to weigh in our salts and hops. So this is a single hop Mosaic, and on 60 minutes I'm using 15 grams of Mosaic. And on 15 minutes I'm having 70 grams. On 15 minutes, I'm also having a teaspoon of yeast nutrients and 1 whirlfloc. And on 0 minutes or whirlpool, then it's the big addition today, 215 grams of Mosaic. Or as you could say, the rest of the 300 grams. So that's it. Ah, this smells so fresh and nice. It's 2018 harvest of Mosaic. So there we have it, today's additions. So there's our mashing complete. Looks very clean and it's got a lovely color. So let's tell the brewmaster we're finished. It's time to get the gloves because this is getting hot. I have a pulley in the ceiling, so I don't have to lift this manually. Okay, I'm lifting it manually, but it's much less weight. To sparge, I use this SS Brewtech Mash Manifoil. And I pump the sparge water with my Blickman Riptide pump. Open up, so the water gets pumped up here. And I can adjust the flow with this flow control. Turn it down a bit. And when the wort level gets higher, I have to raise it a bit more. And just make sure this is underneath it. While the sparging continues, I use this heater to get the wort quicker up to boil. That saves quite a lot of time. And when the sparging is completed, I just simply remove the malt pipe. And now we just have to wait for the brewmeister to get up to boil. And to prevent it from boiling over, I'm adding a little drop of anti-foam. You really don't want all that foam from hot break to go over the edges. Then you have to clean a lot. Been there, done that. Okay, so we have reached hot break. The foam is building up, but it won't go over the edge because of the anti-foam. Then I don't need the extra heater anymore. And it's time to add our first addition. Okay. The smell is so good. Now it will boil for another 45 minutes before the 15 minutes addition. Okay, now it's 15 minutes left of the boil. So in goes the additions. And on 15 minutes I also put my cooler in here to sterilize it. Now we have reached end of boil. So now I will cool down to 74 degrees C and start the whirlpool. Oh, little overshoot there, but now I'll start a whirlpool. So here goes our 215 grams of nice fresh Mosaic hops. I do not do a traditional whirlpool. I just use the pumps of the Speidel to keep everything circulating. So this is how I chill my wort. The outlet goes in the sink and the inlet is under the sink. While the wort chills down to 19 degrees, I will star sand my fermenting vessel. Just shake it around a bit to make sure all the surfaces are in contact with star sand. And now it has reached 19 degrees and I turn off the pump. And I will let the wort settle for about 15 minutes. You see it's a lot of haze here now. 15 minutes later it looks like this. It's cleared up a bit. And the fermenting vessel goes in the fermenting chamber. And the hose goes over the door and in. Just like that. Then I take out my starter and pour some couple of liters of wort. And I put it on the stirrer. Okay, let's connect our hose and open up. To get gravity and temperature readings from my wort during fermentation, I drop in one of these tilts. So now the wort is transferred to the fermenter. Now I will purge oxygen to my wort to ensure the yeast cells get a good start with the aerobic process. And maybe the most important thing on the whole brew day is the yeast. Now it's got a good start, and let's pitch. I'm just pouring it right in. And now let's make a blow-off contraption. And to make sure we ferment at the right temperature, I stick this temp probe on the side. And then I isolate with this old sponge. Okay, see you in 2 weeks. And then to set the temperature, I go to my second fermenter in the Inkbird app. And I set it to 19 degrees. Okay. And it's set to 19. One last thing before the brew day is over, except for cleaning of course, is our gravity reading. Our estimated gravity was 1054 and I think we got 1054, maybe 1055. It's a bit hard to read right now. I think it's 1055. So that's a little overshoot, but that's okay. In 2 weeks I will keg the beer. And on the wall I have this monitor, and that's the reading from our yellow tilt. Today is the day after I brewed the beer, and we can clearly see that the blow-off was useful. There's a lot of yeast that has come out of the top. our beer on cans. I've canned my beer on my October SL1 can simmer. And I also have this 6-pack plastic caps, so it holds my beer in place. It's been 60 days since I brewed the beer, and it's been 42 days since I kegged the beer. And about a week since I canned my beer. The first thing that strikes me when I look at this beer is the nice color. You can clearly see that it's been brewed with a rich malt base. And now let's pick up some aromas. It's quite fruity and tropical. So let's do the important thing and taste the beer. It's a smooth, pleasuring taste from the beer. And I also think I got the carbonation level quite right. When tasting the beer, it's clear that we have a quite rich malt base. You have some of that caramel and that rich malt flavor, and I think it's a quite perfect balance with the Mosaic hops. From the hops I can pick up some mango, pine, tropical, citrus, but the hops is not too dominant, so the balance is quite good. This beer is quite perfect when you don't want one of those taste bombs like the New England IPA, but more taste than a regular lager. And I'm quite happy with this beer. Looks fantastic, smells fantastic, and tastes fantastic. It ended up on 5.8% ABV, so it's a bit strong, but not that strong that you can't drink a few. So some of my beer I canned, and when I can my beer, I think it's nice to have a label that's design-wise okay. I'm maybe not the best designer in the world, but I do my best. And I quite like these plastic can holders. I love black boxes and black lids. The can holder itself is just a piece of plastic. So that's it. Now I'm gonna drink my beer. Thank you for watching this episode of The Next Batch. Maybe I'll see you again in another English video on this YouTube channel. Normally I do my videos in Norwegian because that's my language, but now my English-speaking friends can understand what the heck I'm talking about when I'm brewing my beer. See you guys later.